Hey, what's up? It's Sifu Kuttel, and in this video, we're going to take a close look at Chinese tridents and tiger forks, just like this one here made by LK Chen. We're going to assess some design, dig into some history, and even go into some terminology that makes this the king of Southern Chinese Kung Fu weaponry. In Southern Kung Fu, the tiger fork is considered a master weapon, and in some styles, when performing or doing a demonstration out in public, the guandou or the tiger fork are usually reserved for the highest level practitioner and saved for the end of the performance to close the show. Many Hakka styles, as well as Southern systems like Choy and Hong Kun, include tiger fork to their weapons training. And although it is a popular weapon in the South, it is not exclusive to the region. In fact, when we look even further back in history, we find many records of trident usage in northern China. In one of China's earliest training manuals found in the Wubei, there are a number of trident techniques explained. The weapon was so common on the battlefield that there is even another text in one of the sword manuals that includes specific fighting methods against the trident. The trident was useful on foot, horseback, and even in naval combat, as we can see here in the painting of the battle against piracy from the Ming Dynasty. Actually, the tiger fork predates the Ming Dynasty, and we can see evidence of this by its inclusion in stories like The Water Margin or Outlaws of the Marsh. That means that it was common enough of a weapon that the general public knew about it as both a battlefield weapon and a hunting implement. As for the conception of the weapon, we really can't say. There are theories that suggest that the weapon was derived from a farming tool, but I doubt this is the truth because if you've ever used a pitchfork, you would know that this would be incredibly inefficient. For one example, pitchforks have a scooped head, which make it a lot easier for the motions that you're going to be doing when you're shoveling and hoisting. And although you may think that that is a forging intricacy, it's really not hard. If they can forge the curve here, they can forge a scoop that can be used for shoveling. Even if we overlook the scoop, the space between the prongs is so wide that you're going to end up dropping more than you actually pick up. And space between the prongs is something that can be an easy fix in forging and after forging. So I really don't think that this would be an evolution of a farm tool. Now, there actually is another type of forked weapon that was derived from a farming tool. Now, we typically look at these types of weapons and we think that they are Japanese weapons, and that's just because we've heard about the sai a lot longer than this. But the Chinese had a very similar forked weapon, which is called a cha, or fork. Many Hakka styles use cha, so it very well could have been the evolution of a weapon that was based on a farm tool. Now, this is where terminology becomes very important because in Southern styles of Kung Fu, this is not referred to as a cha or a dai cha or big fork, but a dai pa. The name of pa or cha may seem inconsequential, but when it comes to Chinese terminology, especially in martial arts, even something like the ubiquitous dou could mean anything from knife to saber to even glaive. So having a specific term makes a separation and makes some significance to it. Personally, I think that the trident is actually an evolution from halberds that we find from back in the Han Dynasty. We can already start to see an evolution from the 90-degree angle to an upward hook. And it seems like a natural progression would be to add another hooked blade on the other side to make it more balanced in weight and therefore easier in function. But here's where we get a really important design element, and that is the length of the center of the fork, which is longer than the outer prongs. And we can see this both in the flat-bladed trident version and the later pronged tiger fork version. This means that the center point was used for thrusting and spearing, while the outer two prongs were used for trapping and disarming techniques. Now let's look at this tiger fork from LK Chen with a design based on forks from the late Ming and well through the Qing Dynasty. Instead of the flat-bladed design that we saw in the Ming Dynasty manual and paintings, we have a four-sided pronged design. This means that the weapon's design was based off of spearing and thrusting techniques, trapping and catching, and the availability of heavy striking and even raking. The connection point has long been an opportunity for decoration, sometimes by tying on a ribbon flower or other times in forging. The LK Chen tiger fork has a diamond-shaped connection point, which was a very popular motif in historical examples. Now let's talk about the name tiger fork. Now we've already established that these have been exceptional weapons on the battlefield, but they also served a very important purpose, and that was a hunting implement to hunt tigers. For hunting tigers, the ideal method would be to trap the tiger in a deep pit and then finish it off with the fork. However, this fork functions just as well on level ground and has been said to be extremely effective when a tiger is pouncing and having to attack upward. In the style of Choy we actually have 3 dedicated forms for tiger fork training. On top of that, there are two-person combat forms in which the tiger fork is pitted up against sword and shield, and another one where it's versus double cudgels. Now, when you look at other weapons that have only one single solo form, that means that this weapon is pretty important. I already have a couple of videos up on tiger fork basics and a couple of fancy techniques, and now that I have this one from LK Chen, there's sure to be more on the way. But the reason I bring this up is because you can already see in those videos, and you will see in future videos, that there's a very particular technique, something very specific to tiger fork and exclusive to the training itself, and that is spinning the weapon. I find that to be one of the most important aspects of tiger fork training. That's not to say that a long, fancy, sustained spin is going to give you a tactical advantage, but training and practicing this is going to develop and fortify your wrist, forearm, and grip strength, which is essential for using this weapon. In practicality, you're not going to be doing a big spin, but you are going to have to use some rotations when trapping, and you're going to need that extra grip strength to disarm an opponent as well as keep a hold of your own weapon. Speaking of grip, there are 2 ways that you can grip the tiger fork. One is the single end version where your thumbs are pointing in the same direction, which allows for more reach for piercing and thrusting techniques, as well as a double-ended gripping technique where the thumbs point towards each other. This allows for more leverage as well as usage of both sides of the weapon. In Choy forms, you'll find that these 2 are used interchangeably and are changed often throughout the form. And that increases dexterity, control of the weapon, and also allows for more attack and defensive options. Now, if you order a tiger fork for yourself from LK Chen, what you're going to receive is just the fork part itself, and you're going to have to find and supply your own pole. Now, I would suggest getting a hardwood like ash, and you can find a decent pole that's probably already tapered in your hardware store. Just make sure that the pole is nice and straight. As far as the length of the pole, because the Trident head adds a lot of height to it, you really don't need anything too long. So really anything up to about eye level should be good for you. Lastly, I suggest you paint your pole. Now, this has less to do with aesthetics and more so to do with grip. So go ahead and paint it any color you want. But I have found that having bare wood, especially well-sanded wood, can be too slippery. So you have no grip to be able to start your spin. And then having something like a clear coat or so many coats of paint that it's so smooth, you almost stick too much to the weapon. So I found that the best that works for me is just basic acrylic paint and just a couple of coats. And you'll find that this makes a nice happy medium to where you have enough grip to start the spin, but it's also smooth enough to sustain that spin. And this is something that gets better over time. So as you train with it, you're actually going to find that it becomes even better with the grip and even smoother with the spin. You can add a tassel or a flowered ribbon as decoration, or you can leave it simple like this and let the fork speak for itself. I want to finish this video by saying that I was actually surprised when LK Chen came out with this, partially because the majority of his offerings are of bladed weapons, but mostly because outside of Chinese martial arts circles, the tiger fork really isn't that well known. So there really aren't a lot of suppliers for tiger forks, and even then, quality tiger forks. Oftentimes, companies that actually do make good tiger forks are out of stock. So finding one that's available consistently from a reliable, quality, and historically accurate maker makes this all the more exciting. With that said, be sure to check out my other videos with the tiger fork and be on the lookout for more. I'm definitely going to be doing more now that I have this one from LK Chen. As always, I will leave all of the information and links to this on their website down below. And as always, I love to hear what you think about these. So drop a comment, ask a question, and let everybody else know. If you already have a tiger fork, tell everybody what you think. I know people read the comments, and if you have some valuable insight, I'll pin it to the top. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.